list when they basically wouldn't pay you a salary, but potential, right? But it is interesting, right, that people did use LinkedIn to help you engage, attract, get interest. And then they advanced LinkedIn into so many other parts that I know I'm, working with you, Evan. Thank you for boosting my content. But there's different levels. I know just kind of that awareness that you said, getting people to follow, track you, to really engaging in something like a funnel, target marketing. Can you share what LinkedIn is when it first started and kind of how it's evolved now? And just maybe a little bit about how you can kind of use it or what you guys are using it for.
Yeah, definitely. LinkedIn has really become quite important for professionals recently. In speaking to a lot of Fortune 500 companies, they are actually quite active in pushing their people to use LinkedIn at all levels. So that's actually quite interesting. Over the years past, you've probably noticed that anytime you walk into an event or you're at a convention or something, that most of the time you're exchanging your LinkedIn versus a business card these days. So I think that's also a very interesting kind of dynamic shift. But really, LinkedIn is everything post college. Some people have their college stuff in there as well. Your SAT score and beyond. It's everything that you've done in your adult professional career ever since you stepped out of college. And the reason why it's so interesting, and especially kind of like this age of AI, is because really that's an anchor as we move forward into this age of AI, where you have tons of AI influencers. You have AI generated content that you can generate with the push of a button. And so the landscape is really shifting. It's really becoming very, very, very noisy. And so I would say that building a brand, or the ability to build a brand and stand out throughout all of that noise, especially the volume of noise that's coming, is going to be very, very important for brands going forward.
You know what? I love, Evan, that you brought it up. Yeah, you should have a QR code or something to your landing page or to your LinkedIn, because this is what I do now is to verify, whoever I'm talking to, let's LinkedIn together. Then I see how many mutual connections, the better connections I have. I call or reach out to my friends saying, do you know this individual? Have you done business with this person? So I would say nowadays that there used to be a reference check, and I talked to some friends and others. They're like, who am I going to send the worst person I did business with that never wants to talk to me? Of course, I'm going to send you to my best friend or to my mom, who's going to say, oh, he's fabulous. That person's great. But using LinkedIn, seeing how you're mutually connected, could now you can choose who you want to get for like a testimonial, who you've worked with before. I mean, it's powerful and scary because that's exactly, Evan, what I use all the time to verify people and check people out. And this is where your brand, your credibility, your authentic way follows you, right? And you're right. I've had some college students, people in grad school reaching out to me. And this is the great thing, using and finding mentors, finding internships, creating these opportunities that you haven't. I hate to say, I mean, I'm really proud of this, but some people reached out that I actually do business from a LinkedIn. I saw you're doing this, you were doing that, getting yourself out there. And now we're starting to do some business engaging, and it's really around the world. I am now reaching out and connecting with people around the world, not just in my local city or my local networking or even organization. It's gone beyond. So maybe now you can share a little bit about Regenesis, what you've been doing, how you're evolving, because I know I love it. I'm using it, but now I want to use it for target marketing to really scale my business, to grow my business. So if you want to show a presentation or just let people know about your company, what it can do. And I just say, I'm already using it. I always love to be a guinea pig on anything I try and having a good experience. So Evan, you and your team are fabulous. But I want to take it to the next step of kind of turning it into something than just having people follow me, LinkedIn, high, numbers or whatever you call it. But how do we turn it into something else, something tangible, some revenue coming in? So Evan, if you don't mind sharing.
No, definitely. I mean, so there's a few components to that, right? So it all starts with branding. It all starts with having a brand, and of course, building that brand awareness. That's typically the most difficult, most expensive piece to starting a company for people. That branding portion, that brand awareness, and of course, over time, that brand trust. So that's one of the things that we're able to offer to people is the ability to post on a consistent basis on LinkedIn and make sure that that content, whatever that messaging is, has reach and engagement to your target audience. Um, that's usually the main piece of everything. And from that brand, we can basically build systems to essentially help with all types of solving all your problems, really. And for most people, there's a revenue issue. And so, sales and outreach automation is one of the most common automations that we build. So that's a funnel between your LinkedIn profile and then running all of your LinkedIn email, whether that's cold outreach or newsletters, the whole 9 yards. That's essentially what we do for brands. But it all starts again with that boosting of that content, making sure that content is being seen and engaged on. So you can kind of think of that as an alternative to paid advertising, right? So for paid advertising, it's a sponsored or promoted ad, and it's going to go as far as you pay for. So if you're putting in $10,000, it's going to go, a certain distance. Post boosting is different. Post boosting comes from your personal or company profile, and it does not say sponsored and it does not say promoted, and it's an organic content that's basically just like a normal post from your profile. And that's really the differentiator is that it looks organic, so that looks and feels better for your audience. And it helps you reach a broader audience as well without having to do that advertising spend.
Evan, and I know, one of the things is the cost, because running different companies, even for myself, I can't imagine some of the people, 10,000 is cheap. Some people says, well, and it's always very nebulous on this. Well, you got to be consistent. You got to do this. I mean, I was getting some bills before, or invoices or proposals in the $250,000, at least 100,000 to run our campaign for our company that we had before every month, right? And they want these long engagements because I said, well, some of these questions, how can I manage or monitor? What are some KPIs? What are some tracking mechanisms and likes? And it's always very nebulous. Well, there's no guarantee. You got to be consistent. You got to do. So how can anyone, and let's just cut through it. Now with social media, you can actually track some of the numbers. How can you tell people, let's say LinkedIn or anything else, if it's a successful campaign? Can you share how everyone out there can tell whatever they're doing, if it's a successful campaign, then oh boy, it just takes consistent. You need 6 months. Well, you can blow through 6 months of capital, money, energy, time, and really get nowhere, right? You could just it's in the trash, it's gone. To instead of building your brand, right? And that's the thing, incrementally building it, scaling it, and using it for some things. Can you share how do you track using LinkedIn some of the metrics? Because I don't know half the stuff besides the like and follows and shares. What else could you look at? And can you go into those also?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually when we run campaigns across LinkedIn, we're running two types of campaigns. So the first type of campaign is a content campaign. That's going to be your posting and your content. The other type of campaign that we typically run is an outreach campaign, and that's going to be sending targeted connection requests to your prospects. So that's typically what we do. And on the content side of things, to be able to say this is a successful post or successful campaign, we like to see that campaign goes out to at least 50% of your followers or more. So if you have 100,000 followers, then we want to build it. We want to see that post. We want to see that post hit at least 50,000 impressions or more over the course of the first day or two. If we can achieve that, then that's usually a good sign, and that usually tells us that we're going to be able to get our messaging out to our base fairly easily on a consistent basis. The second portion of that is the outreach portion. And the outreach portion we can kind of break down into two categories. The first category is going to be your LinkedIn connection request acceptance rate. So when I send a connection request to a potential prospect, how often are they accepting that versus rejecting that? And the optimization of that usually comes from your profile and your content. So if you have a nice, well put together profile where someone in 1 second clicks over and says, okay, I can probably gain some value from this person in the future, then that's an easy follow. The second thing that we want to optimize for is your reply rate. So we want to make sure that as we send out these campaigns that we're actually getting a reply, so that once we get that reply, we can implement whatever frameworks we might have to basically facilitate that conversation, right? So on the acceptance rate, what we're typically looking for is we're looking for a 30% plus acceptance rate on LinkedIn. So meaning like 1 out of every 3 connection requests we send, we want to be able to at least get one of those as a connection request. Okay, and then for the reply, there's kind of like email numbers and then there's LinkedIn numbers. The LinkedIn numbers are a lot stronger than cold email response numbers. And so over LinkedIn, we like to see a reply rate of at least 15 to 20% on all of our campaigns. And that's usually how we track the metrics for success on our campaigns.
Keith, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
There we go. Got it undone. Real quick, this is Luis. He's Hispanic, and he's the only commercial Hispanic in Alabama that we know of.
So I'm trying to figure it out. Probably going to give you a call or something. I want to explode that, you know?
Yeah,
I want to. There's so many Hispanic business owners in the area, and I would like to be more close to them. I already have been attending a couple of meetings with a few of them, and I've been part of some of the organizations as well. But definitely, I want to learn how to do it more efficient.
Hey, Dan, you got your speaker. We're hearing ourselves. Dan Gill. Or mute yourself. There we go.
There's actually a few there's a lot of things that you can do. So first of all, for our targeting, we typically use Sales Navigator. That's a LinkedIn tool. That will allow us to be able to filter down and segment target lists. So we can definitely segment and target lists by location or hyperlocation. We can also separate them by language. So that's also a really good filter. Another thing that we can do across LinkedIn is that we can create campaigns that target groups on LinkedIn. So if there's other Hispanic groups on LinkedIn that are local in your area, we can easily target them with a campaign. Same with events. If you see events in your local area that are maybe targeted to your target audience, we can essentially just take the link of that event and turn that into a campaign and start to message everyone in that event. So there are quite a few ways that we could probably do something to find those people for you.
Yes, most definitely, because I'm also trying to build a new chapter for NAREP here in Birmingham as well, in Alabama.
NAREP is National Association
Real Estate Professionals.
Yeah, Hispanic Real Estate.
So again, I'm trying to be very involved in the community and, start building up my name as well.
Evan, if you don't mind just putting it in so Luis and other people could do it. And Luis, just to let you know, my friend runs the Hispanic development, but it's for everyone. So we can talk and share more because we do want to build this community, helping people. I always say it's very important, especially for the development part, for more home ownership, affordable home ownership, and we'll have more guest speaking. But it's worked for me, Evan, just by you putting it out there. People from Europe reach out to me to be on their podcasts or being interviewed. I had people reaching out to me from Latin America. I had friends and people reaching out, just all around the world that we just started off of. I saw something, you shared something, we reached out because it is an easier way sometimes than approaching live or finding the right event, but just reaching out in LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I would just say, you said something important. It started with building your LinkedIn profile, making it look polished or at least, presentable that people want to connect. Because I know sometimes I get this, they didn't fill out their title, they didn't fill out their company, they didn't have a background. They look kind of sketchy, like I would be extorted somehow if I let them into my network. So Evan, can you share, kind of going back, basics of what is a good LinkedIn profile, and do you help people create and just build the basics? Let's just have a respectable page for LinkedIn.
Definitely. I mean, it all starts out with your LinkedIn profile. And we can think of that as a landing page, right? So that's really powerful. So that means that like anyone who's interested in hearing about what we're doing or interested in the things that we're doing, the very first thing that they're going to do is they're going to pop over to our landing page. And so landing page needs to be optimized, meaning right away within, the first 2 or 3 seconds, we need to be able to tell a story. We need to be able to let them know exactly what we do, what we're about. We also need to let them know how to take the next steps if they're interested in what we are doing, right? So one thing that I see a lot of people missing on their LinkedIn profile is quite simply a services section. A services section is a section that you can just put onto your profile that just tells people what services you provide. I'm an agent, I'm a broker, I sell this, I offer that. And so that's a really easy way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in what you're doing. So I would definitely say that see your profile as a landing page, meaning your headline and your banner. Those are kind of probably the two first and foremost places that people look. So utilizing that banner, a beautiful picture of a sunset's great, but you can also let people know maybe about some of the benefits or value that they would get in working with you, or maybe some of the amazing things that you've been able to achieve in your career, just so that within the first 2 seconds, they can kind of understand who you are. And then the second thing is that, your headline. So it's the same thing. It should essentially let people know who you are, what you've accomplished, and most importantly, what it is that you can do for them if they decide to engage with you, right? So again, thinking about your landing page, thinking about your profile as a landing page, thinking of it as a page that exists to help you convert business. And that's really how you should see your landing page, your profile page.
Thank you. We have a question from Cecile. Cecile, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you so much. So my question is, I just became a real estate agent in the Hudson Valley of New York. But for the last 30 years, I was a television producer at a pretty high level. And my LinkedIn profile currently says I'm a TV producer and I'm a real estate agent. And I'm having a hard time letting go of my, my past career. But I feel as if, I'm full time now in real estate because I really want to give it a go. And I have, like more than 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. So what should I do in terms of my my background? Right now it's all TV stuff.
Well, I think that the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is, it's really there for personal branding. And I think that all of that is part of your personal brand. Yes, you are in something now, but definitely like, your roots came from somewhere else. So I think that like it's definitely acceptable on LinkedIn to be able to show everything that you've been able to do. I think that also deepens like kind of the way that people see you. It also allows people to connect with you on different levels. So someone might want to connect with you on, to talk to you about something like, from the past. Someone might want to talk to you about real estate, right? So I think that all goes into your personal brand. And then I think that like you can definitely say as far as your experiences and timeline goes, kind of like what you are doing currently. Um, but definitely I wouldn't let go of that foundation because that's ultimately like kind of like part of you, what makes you who you are, right? So that's definitely a piece of your, let's say, professional history that is totally acceptable on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much. And do you think that the background image should reflect both careers? I'm having a hard time with what to put as my background.
You probably want to have everything focused on your current goals. So
Okay.
you want to make sure that everything is optimized for your current goals. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So we'll put Evan's contact so you can kind of go offline and kind of get a discussion of what to do and how to build it. I know you're gonna drop off, Eric, so I'll let you say a couple words. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got to jump off in 3 minutes, but I want to say I've been a client of Evans for the last 3 or 4 months. Can't say enough about his services, who he is as a person. By the way, another deposit has just been made during this call. My traffic to my account has just exploded. Everything I wanted to do, he created 2 campaigns for me, a campaign to tell of my services and a campaign for agent attraction. And we continue to fine tune them and make changes and tweaks. But I'm talking to Evan now 4 or 5 different multifamily developers in regions I was looking for that I didn't have before, and now I'm showing them property. So and Jim, again, thank you. I showed up again to somewhere where you were at, Dallas, met Evan through a call like this, brought his services on, game changer. I'm all in, big advocate. Got to go. See ya.
See you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing that. And like I said, a lot of times I like to test it out. I'll spend the money, see what happens, and let other people know. I always think of abundance thinking, let other people learn, see, try. But sometimes some freebie tips, right? Not everyone has the budget because it does cost. But I would say too, Evan, from what I've learned talking to so many people on different services, you're very affordable, maybe too affordable, but we hope you always kind of help other people kind of play it forward on this. So can you now go from, okay, we got a good profile. With Eric saying you got to have content, kind of a call to action, whether it's event, something that you're putting out there. How do you create that? How do you put that together? And what should you do so it's not something kind of off the reservation? Or maybe it is, right? Maybe it is something that you're volunteering and doing to show a different dimension. I know a lot of times LinkedIn kind of got blurred with Instagram, maybe TikTok. It used to be the professional, here's my resume, read it, static, boring. But what I've seen is people now posting about their pets, just different activities. It's almost like kind of blurring the lines. Can you share a little about what do you think is appropriate and what should people do as engagement?
Yeah, definitely. So there are cat videos, that's for sure. And there are more and more videos actually, because right now LinkedIn's algorithm highly favors videos, especially vertical videos, self-shot. So, on an iPhone, self-shooting with you in the frame, that's highly favored by the algorithm right now. So that's why you're seeing a lot of creators kind of try to move in that direction to take advantage of that leeway. So that's something that's kind of happening right now. I think like what's also kind of happening is you see this big battle between AI and real people. So you see this as far as like a lot of AI influencers kind of coming about. You see a lot of tools that are able to kind of create a lot of AI generated content. So the space is getting really crowded. So it's really interesting for platforms like LinkedIn and certain other ones, you have to now designate between AI and human generated content. So if your content is AI generated, or has any AI related generation involved, you need to basically note that now. And so that's kind of interesting as we evolve and kind of like share the social media space with virtual influencers and such. But good thing like for LinkedIn, you know, it's still tied to, and you still need to verify your ID. So, you know, you're still able to, you know, tie LinkedIn to a human component. I think that's going to be really important, kind of like moving ahead in the future, kind of with all this like crazy AI stuff. Yeah, but essentially, like I would say that like the importance of LinkedIn really can't be understated. It's really the foundational piece to all brands, to all of your messaging, to anything professional, and especially more and more with all this AI coming in. I would say that like personal branding is definitely going to help you, like I would say, like not go obsolete. It's a really good way of protecting yourself, protecting your brand, and protecting your business for all the crazy changes that are coming with AI.
You know, I love that, Evan, that you shared this. We saw, and I've heard where AI was doing cold calls for you. Now I'm seeing AI doing these videos, AI models, I mean, AI influencers. Do you believe from being the authentic without putting AI generated on the bottom, that, you know, tag, right, that you show, what would you say? Would you do the in-person and also AI and target market different things, or just use it maybe as a AIU or somebody else so they can answer questions, right? Because it is not just using AI, it's automating everything you're doing. So a lot of the tasks that you were working on, right? We always say put a task list of what you do and use AI and automate, so it makes it easier, right, for your life. So you get some more hours or time back, which it is incredible. So can you share about creating that AI avatar versus the authentic you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are an agency, so we love to test things. So anytime a question like that comes up, we'll just do both. We'll test everything, and right away we'll grab the data and we'll know within the first 1 or 2 videos what's working and what's not. I would say though that like given what I've seen and over the past, that people don't really like you know, they're still kind of hesitant when it comes to the AI. They're still definitely embracing humans over AI today. At least most of us are. So that's still a thing. And the other thing I think is that a lot of people kind of confuse AI with automation, although there is a lot of like kind of crossover. But automation is really like taking all of the mundane kind of day-to-day processes within your business, and just automating them. So making sure that, you know, all of the kind of follow-ups emails get sent out to your prospects after every, you know, interaction, or, you know, making sure that all of your billing is automated, et cetera, et cetera, your AR, your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, et cetera. So that's definitely like a lot different than just AI, although there are kind of like AI components embedded. So, you know, two very important but separate topics, automation and AI, I'd say.
You know, that's a great thing, because I think some people are maybe don't like cold calling or don't like, you know, this reach, but you know, they may be good at other things, is to create the AI, send it out there, you know, whether LinkedIn or other social media, or just through their database, right? Because they just don't like it, especially the younger generation, of which I heard they don't communicate well live, right? They like to go through a technology medium to communicate. So from there, you know, some things, Evan, that I was telling people is minimum, you got to build your LinkedIn, but if not, attach your landing page to something, right? And like you said, what do you do first? What have you done before? What are all your services? and kind of schedule a meeting kind of as that funnel. And then if you're really ambitious, you build your website, right? We all know it's expensive. You got to pay for it, but it allows you to do more things, more dimensions. Can you share on this, each step, LinkedIn, building a landing page attached to a company or something to the point where you have your own website? Do you just do them all? How would you do it if you had to build, let's say, from scratch?
Yeah. So it's all about funnels, right? It's all about like taking a wide swath of people, getting their attention, and then being able to drive them through a journey that ultimately lands them at your front door. So the first part of that is always going to be awareness. So how many tools or ways are we kind of doing the one-to-many conversation, right? So that could be social media, that could be paid ads. There's kind of like a number of ways to do this. Obviously for us, we're doing this through our post boosting. So it's really about driving traffic. So you want eyeballs and you want reach and you want engagement on your content. Great. Why? Why is that important? Well, that's important because every eyeball that sees your content, is able to kind of engage and kind of understand the brand and what you are all about. Okay. But if your content hits, if it lands, if they're reading your content and says, well, this makes sense, I really understand this, this is what I need, then the next step, what they're going to do is they're going to look at your call to action. Your call to action is what really kind of drives everything. So your call to action could be a number of things. It could be sign up for my newsletter. It could be this, it could be that. Typically for sales, we want to drive them to a landing page. And that landing page should be optimized for sales, meaning that landing page should not have a whole bunch of information about anything else. It should really only talk about sales and why they need your product. Okay. So we can do that through a web landing page. We can also do that through your LinkedIn profile as a landing page. Okay. But essentially, we want to have an engine that drives eyeballs and traffic to a certain place. Once we drive eyeballs to that certain place, that place needs to be optimized so that when they come there, they can get the idea right away. They can understand how to take the next steps right away. They have all the right links and information in that on that page, so they don't need to click away from it to go look at something, to go research something else before they understand this. They have everything there in one snapshot, fully optimized, meaning that the thought process goes from start to finish, meaning like introduction, why it's interesting, why you need it, the price and your discounted price because you landed on this landing page, right? So everything that you need to drive that traffic, to drive that conversion all in one place. So as we do that, that's what we call a funnel. So that's that awareness piece, driving it into one place where then you can then capture that lead and then you can go and engage with that lead however you need to. That's what we build.
I love that. Building content, I was telling people, start thinking about your brand, create LinkedIn at the minimum, landing page to another organization or something. Many people are part of different organization companies to add that minimum, right? And sometimes other technology companies, you can pay to build a specialized landing page on them. And then obviously, back in the 90s, everyone had to have a website. It's like now, back then, I remember in the 90s, website, what's a website? To, oh, where's your website, right? But now it's also what's your LinkedIn. But one of the funnels that you're saying is building content. And I hope everyone follows Top Agent Nations on Wednesdays. What we're trying to create, one with Evan, is top of the funnel. But how do you build content? So we are going to teach people, how to be part of a book, because, right, credibility, saying you're a part of a book, writing it you're all yourself, or at least a chapter. How do you put your own programs together? How do you create your own podcast, webinar, right? Two other things that you could do, events, to yourself as a leader or an expert in this industry, because it's not just marketing, right, Evan? It's showing yourself. One, you got to be authentic. two, you got to have credibility, integrity. So would you share about building content? Because you're saying before static didn't work so well, but now everyone's going into more video live. What type of content have you seen gets the most attraction, most views, most interest when you put it on, let's say, LinkedIn for now?
Like, I would say that, like, for LinkedIn, anything that's like people centric usually does very well. Anything that like helps another human being out of a hardship or a situation that they're in usually does really well. I think everyone on LinkedIn is typically trying to achieve some similar goal, right? They're trying to make a living, they're trying to provide for their family, they're trying to make a name for themselves professionally. All of that stuff is perfectly good content, you know. So in building a personal brand, I would say that, like, being authentic is extremely important. Um, Showing vulnerability, like showing the human side of everything. A lot of creators like to build in public. This is something that's very popular to do, gets lots of engagement. You're building a company in public, meaning I'm sharing with you every day kind of like the things that I'm going through. And one kind of really interesting piece of that journey is usually showing hardships and failure. You would be surprised, but like usually when you show like some vulnerability in your brand, when you say, "Oh man, I just failed at this. Don't make the same mistake that I'm making." That type of content usually hits really hard, because if you're making that same mistake, or if you have that question, chances are tons of other people are making that same mistake, or have made it in the past, or have that same exact question as you. So that type of content usually goes very, very far.
Again, actually, David Monroe, since you added something, we'd like to ask a question, since very useful of the four things you put in. If you don't mind sharing a little bit, David.
So that's just a copywriting secret. And I agree with everything Evan has said. For some of you that know me, I'm kind of a digital marketing expert myself. And in copywriting, I learned there's actually 10 reasons people make buying decisions. That's number 1 through 4. And I write all of my content, whether it's email, whether I'm building scripts, whatever it is, based off of these 4 reasons.
Motivators. Those are very good motivators.
David, thank you for sharing. And you know what, and everyone, I'm so tired of the perfect life on social media for a while, but maybe it's swung too much that everyone's sharing their misery or crying on social media or just devastation. But the issue is, is it authentic, or is it just a show? Right? And then I guess people that know you, because if you can add comments, right? Sometimes when you block the comments or don't allow, it's probably not so great. But if it allows people to take the good and the bad, it's interesting, right? It's interesting because we all go through a journey. And, I would say a lot of times it's almost like the funny thing was where we had, what is the thing? We used to video when we go skiing and everything, that sports camera before, and now we have the camera to really follow you, or even crazier, hire somebody to follow you around, doing videos all day long, which is strange. But I mean, where do you see this, Evan, going? Because it's almost like, what is that? What is that? A TV show? That used to be not Bruce Almighty, but one of them, right? That they're just watching Truman Show. They're just watching your life. Where does it get ridiculous, or does it ever get ridiculous?
I think it's already ridiculous for certain creators. I mean, if you look at, Mr. Beast, the Mr. Beasts of the world, I mean, his entire life is on social media. So I think that there's definitely like a choice to be made. We're definitely not all Mr. Beasts, and I'm sure that we all enjoy, some of our private time. But this does bleed over into that, you know, because the days of old, you know, if you're a TV celebrity, and you walk in, you know, you walk out in the public, you know, there's a chance you can be recognized. But when you look at the numbers of, like, say, for instance, our boosting versus like the numbers of that TV shows are getting, their actual ratings, the actual numbers that are people that are watching, we're actually getting way more impressions than like NBC or CNN on any given night. So that's really interesting. So what that means is that your brand, your face every day, you know, if we're working with you, you're being seen more than some of these people, like news anchors and shows. So the shift of who, you know, is in the public's eye, or, you know, the pillars of influence, or who we trust, that's definitely shifted. And over the last couple of years, we've seen that, you know, we've seen so many like social media creators come up from nowhere where, you know, in the days of old, that would have never happened. So it's definitely happening. The Truman Show is everywhere. Everyone can be Truman if you so decide. And that's the world we're living in now.
That's amazing. So maybe with Cecile, with all your contacts, interview your old friends on everything because they are celebrities or influencers. And Evan, just going back before I ask questions, how important is to attach yourself to another influencers, getting them to like you? Do you sponge off their people too? I mean, how do you increase it by, you may know somebody that can help you tie into your brand to grow your brand?
Well, there's definitely some strategies there. Number one, if there's a big brand, if Alex Hermosi or someone comes onto my LinkedIn post and comments and reposts or whatever, that's definitely going to help the engagement and reach of my post. So if you have any influential friends, like a Jim, that can come and comment on your post, that algorithmically is going to definitely help you on LinkedIn. Number one. Number two is that when we want to associate ourselves with certain brands, that's definitely a strategy to help your own brand, right? So if my brand is constantly being seen with the Alex Hermosis or the Welches of the world, you know, then, you know, they're going to essentially like see our brands together. And so what does that do for your brand? Well, if you see, you know, my brand with the Nike brand, or if we do some kind of cross promotion, that's going to stand out in your mind, because that's going to elevate the level of my brand to the level of Nike and say, well, gee, you know, we're kind of on the same playing field. So as far as branding goes, that's extremely important. So if you can get a big comment from a creator, or if you can consistently comment and get a re-comment from some of these big creators, that's a very, very, I would say, like, important strategy as far as branding goes in social media.
Thank you, Evan. Any questions from the audience that you would like to ask, or something burning, or you're building your own brand, website, some landing page, any kind of questions that you may have? Nelson?
Yeah, so I am working with U.S. Green Building Council on launching a YouTube channel called Sustainable Solutions for Real Estate, and we've engaged a YouTube channel manager to get us going, and we've got probably 25 they're kind of in the bank. We've launched about 3 or 4 so far. Unfortunately, the first ones were pretty raw, you know, when looking at them, it's like looking down and not as good, but they've gotten a little better along the way. But how do I maximize what we're doing with LinkedIn to really get it going?
Well, you know, so LinkedIn and YouTube are a little bit different, and kind of like, where they sit, I would say, in the market. You know, YouTube, while there's a lot of, I would say, professional, and helpful stuff on there, there's still kind of like this lifestyle component to it, where LinkedIn is almost like 100% professional. So what we see a lot of people do, and we do this for a lot of podcasters, is they like to have LinkedIn as kind of like the this kind of, um, let's say like a like authority piece, right? So it's like an authority piece that they can always point to and say, well, look, this is what we're doing. This is the company. This is what the company is all about. Where like on LinkedIn, you can kind of get into those things, but it's more like video driven. So it's going to be more based on the actual content you put out. Where like on LinkedIn, you can kind of like still like put out the content, but also kind of like tie that back to like something professional, like the business itself. Like, hey, like, you know, this is the business, and you know, this is the page that you can point to where, you know, we establish our trust. So that's usually what we use it for, is kind of like a trust building piece that you can point back to and say, look, this is where my authority stems from.
Thank you, Nelson. Any other questions? Well, while everyone's thinking, Evan, can you share where the change, right? Since you started with LinkedIn, you started growing it. Where else are you growing this now, especially with AI? I've seen many companies adjust and pivot and change because of AI. But where is Regenesis kind of growing from the LinkedIn? I think you were working and building other funnels and other platforms.
That's correct. Yeah. So, you know, just kind of given the state of AI and kind of like where we see a lot of the changes going, you know, there's a lot of industry change, I would say, like in almost every industry. Misha Kaufman, the CEO of Fiverr, you probably heard, issued a warning to all of his employees to let them know that, you know, AI was coming for their jobs, including his own, and that everyone should really kind of adapt skills to remain relevant. And I would say that that's really true for almost every industry going forward. Social media, however, I would say is kind of be like the one thing. It's kind of like, you know, the weed in the wind, where with the advent of all the AI stuff, more and more you're going to need a tenet that ties you or your brand to something human that I think people are really going to look for. So, you know, your LinkedIn profile is kind of in time is, I would say, going to be like an anchor in a shitstorm of AI generated influencers and comment and content. I would say that, like, you know, social media is going to be more important in the future, especially if it's if you're able to tie it to humans. I would say that AI generated stuff, it's going to do its thing. It's you know, people are going to watch it. It's going to have its following. But there's going to be that subset of people who always want to tie something back to humans. And so that definitely social media for the future, I think, is going to be really important. And so for us, you know, what we built for LinkedIn now, we're essentially going to start to build for the other social medias. We have some very kind of young versions of this. So, you know, we're essentially basically going to start doing more content and boosting for other social media as we continue our journey.
Evan, thank you. You know, and I think these are great takeaways. Using some of the platforms that are, you know, checking you, right? Verifying, right? There are those that you have to send in your some type of ID, so it's not just made up, it's not a scam, even though you may be great pushing it out there, is to build that. And then also building some good content, good information, informative, like you said, play it forward, helping other people out, sharing not just the good. For a while, it was all good, right? It was all fake. And now maybe it's all bad, right? But it's somewhere in between that we all know. And how do we get in front? And you're right. Before it gets so crowded, so noisy, is to lock us all in the right way. So we're building our own brand, scaling it. And Evan, you know how I always talk to experts like you and many others, is putting it all together so we can build this funnel and build an anchor through credibility, friendship, verification, testimonies. Otherwise, a lot of it is just something you don't know if you can believe it or not. But I think Cecile has one more question that I'd like to get answered. She's saying, can you suggest LinkedIn profiles that you could take a look at, some great examples? So maybe you have some examples of where to go, or reach out to Cecile, Evan, and then share, right? But I'll try to put this together using Top Agent Nation so everyone can get different information from you. But Evan just put in his his email to his company. So if you want to reach out just to talk and see how he can help, get some free advice, Evan's very useful on that. But if you can use some of his business, we would always appreciate. We always want to help those that come on our show to give up their time to help everyone else. But I would just say this more than anything. It is so important to build your brand because, as you said, Evan, it's portable. And believe it or not, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, other platforms, YouTube, if you build enough, you can actually get paid. I actually started getting $10, $50, $100. And I'm just like, what? Facebook or someone's giving me some money every month? But just doing this to build your own company and brand, believe it or not, right, Evan? They pay you for this. Can you, before we end, building a brand, how lucrative can this be?
It can be quite lucrative if you can get the eyeballs, especially like if you're on YouTube or something like that. Currently, LinkedIn is not really like monetized like that, although it'd be cool if it was. But I would say that the advantage is still like going to be marketing your brand. The YouTube payouts are great if that's what you're trying to go for, but that really requires like millions and millions and millions of eyeballs. But yeah, just in building your brand, you'll be able to move whatever initiative you're trying to move if you do it correctly, I would say. So,
Evan, thank you so much. Please reach out to Evan Chi at Regenesis to learn more about LinkedIn and other brands and funnels. But join us every Wednesday on Top Agent Commercial Wednesdays to learn more about what you could do, how you could scale your business, how you can build your brand and content. I mean, we're looking to give more good information to help everyone within this community get bigger, stronger. I would say stay in the game. So everyone have a great day, great week, and look forward to seeing everyone next week on Top Agent Commercial Wednesdays. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.
bye, guys.